approaching change for those of us who are change agents as a coach is a really important thing for us. Nobody likes change, even if we're the ones driving it. The actual process of change is hard. Have it be okay for people to make mistakes and fail. I think people in general felt so much that I don't know how to do this, and if I get it wrong, something bad is going to happen.
Welcome to the Change Agent Podcast. My name is Nathan Lesnowski. I'm Concurrency's Chief Technology Officer. We are really glad that you are here with us today. Change Agent Podcast is a place where we talk with people that are transforming their businesses with technology, changing the way they engage with their customers, partners, and employees. We've had some fantastic guests on this program. These conversations have gone in places that I never thought that they would go. Lots of different transformation that's happening within businesses, the way they think about technology, the way they think about transformation, the way they think about engaging their customers, the way digital is changing the way we think about our whole market, the way remote work is changing the way we think about remote and how we work together. Such a great place for us to be right now. And we have an awesome guest today. We have Steve Hannan from Landmark Credit Union. He is the CIO. He is leading the technology change in how the organization is changing the way it engages with its members to bring financial services capabilities to them. And Steve's going to be talking about how he's been driving that change, the obstacles he's had to break through, the way he's been able to unite the organization around that change, and also the transformation that the whole business is having to engage in the way that it looks at its competitive landscape and the things that it's having to think about as it modernizes its services. So welcome to the program today, Steve.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Nathan. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So, Steve, why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about who you are, how you've gotten to the place that you're in right now, and the steps that you've seen as you've started to transform the landscape at Landmark.
Yeah, happy to do that. And again, thanks for having me. So as Nathan said, I'm Steve Hannan. I'm the CIO at Landmark Credit Union. I've been with Landmark for about 3.5 years, and it's been a fantastic ride. And I just want to say one of the things that really attracted me to Landmark was the culture and the people and the mission to serve its members. Took the job at Landmark 3.5 years ago because it was ripe for change, and Landmark recognized a need that it needed a change to continue to be a leader in the marketplace in terms of southeastern Wisconsin, where we are, and as a credit union and a financial. And a lot of that change needed to be either facilitated by or led by technology. So, part of my path to get there prior to coming to Landmark, I spent a little bit of time as the CIO for a company called Doman Life Science Services, which is now Eversana after they were purchased. And before that, I spent about 9 years at Assurant Health. And Assurant Health is and had multiple jobs before that, but Assurant Health was really where I think I came into my own of really understanding the real need for change. And Assurant Health was a health insurance company. One of the few times you can put that in a past tense. So it was a health insurance company providing major medical. And one of the things that Assurant Health did was on the forefront of doing essentially e-commerce for health insurance products in that individual market space, both selling directly to consumers, but also having an online presence that was 99.8% of the way agents sold the product. And as the health insurance landscape changed, it would change in an instant, and rates would change, preferences would change, regulation would change. And we needed to do things better, faster, serve customers better. It really became both an externally focused change organization and an internally focused change organization. So, that 9-year period where I started out as a project manager into a program manager, ended up leading as a VP of part of the IT organization responsible on that e-commerce platform, was really call up my entree into really driving everything that we do through a change lens. And so some of the things going back to Landmark, then, I came in, and one of the things that, was quickly apparent to me is it was an incredibly successful organization that had all its fundamentals that they were doing it the right way. But those fundamentals were the same fundamentals they've been using for years. And so looking at what we could do and what we needed to do is we needed to use technology to do two things. One is enable our associates to do their jobs better than they can do today. And better doesn't necessarily mean the result is better, but better from a standpoint that it's easier, it's less mistake prone, it's faster, it doesn't take as much to train new people, all those things. You can think of it as associate enablement. We needed to enable our associates to do their jobs to fulfill member needs better. And the other is we need to continue our journey to enable members to be able to serve themselves and have, where I would love to see it, those frictionless, easy to do business with type of interactions with us. So that can mean, having things as simple as an electronic delivery of a notification or a statement, or it could mean, hey, everything that I want to be able to do from a banking standpoint, I can do here and not just at that branch that Nathan did such a great job of throwing up for his background. And so there are a couple of things that, we started, and knowing that, sometimes change is always hard for people. Nobody likes change, even if we're the ones driving it. The actual process of change is hard. So how do we get some things to get people more comfortable with technology and get them to change? One of the very first things that we did, and we just so happened to partner with Concurrency to do this, is we implemented a path to get us onto Office 365 with Microsoft. So what did that do for us, and how was that platform really impactful for us from an associate standpoint? Well, we did a couple of things. One is, we moved all of our Microsoft apps into the cloud, and nobody knew it. So that was a great thing. So we were able to change without people knowing it. But we also then created a brand new intranet. And we did that leveraging Office 365. And that did change the way people were doing things. It made it easier for them to find information. It made it easier for them to see the news of the day and what's going on. And it became that focal point for everything that we're doing in terms of communication now. So that was a really easy way to bring in change. And then one of the other big things is the implementation of Microsoft Teams, which we all know has been, such a fantastic thing to have in this new COVID environment, that it sprung change on us. And, how many of us as technology leaders look like geniuses now because we got out ahead and we had something like Teams, all ready to go, so that when we had to go virtual, boom, it was just, hey, we're already here. And all those video conferences and things that some of our business leaders would kind of joke about, we're never going to use that. Well, now we're using them every day. So that has been a huge, huge thing of change. And to see those new tools that are available, to see the capabilities that you have internally is a great place. Call it, I'm not a big fan of this term, but really it's meaningful in this, is eating your own dog food. And we're doing that in an IT organization, and we're doing that as an organization, and we're becoming that overused digital transformation buzzword, digitizing and automating what we're doing internally allows us to then serve our external customers, our members, and those are the people that really, really matter. It allows us to do that in a way that we've never been able to do before and be more successful at it.
Yeah, huge statements. You mentioned the relationship between the internal transformation of the way your employees work with each other and the ability for you to effectively serve your members. Can you talk a little bit about how Landmark straddles the financial space, in a sense that there's financial organizations that just do digital delivery, and then there's ones that are so focused on in-person engagement because of the way that their customers or members are consuming financial services or services from them, because of that close relationship they have with in the partnership as a business consumer or as a individual consumer. How is Landmark straddling the ability to be assets in both spaces, the in-person connection and the competing within the digital delivery space?
Yeah, Nathan, that's a great question, and that's a tough one, and something that is really fun from my standpoint to be able to work on. And we've heard for years the branch is dead, everything is moving online. If you go to almost any financial right now, and you go there on a Friday afternoon into a branch, it'd be hard to see why someone would say that branches are dead. But at the same time, you look at Capital One, a Chime. Those onlines and Ally, there's a reason that they're growing the way they are too, and they're very, very successful. So from our standpoint, what we want to be able to do is we want to provide all of our members the experience that they want to have in order to be able to meet their everyday financial needs. So if you want to go to a branch, you're able to go to a branch. If you want to do it all on your phone, you can do it on your phone. That's how Landmark has decided to be. And we've been traditionally in a branch first digital to support. I think as we look at it, and not to get too much into where our strategy is going to go, and because I don't think we have it all fully mapped out yet, but personally where I think we're going to have our investment in terms of what and how we do things is we're going to lead with digital and branches to support. And my analogy around that, it used to be, rock musicians, they used to tour to promote albums because albums are what made them money. That's been completely 180 now, where rock stars tour or create albums so that they have a reason to tour, because it's touring where they make all their money now. So when we think about branches that now had digital to support to make sure that people were engaged, I think that's going to be a 180 over the next few years, where we look at digital first and branches to support. Now, that doesn't mean that the people who want to go to a branch to deposit a check, to get something done that you just can't do on your phone, if you need to get something that's physical, let's say a cashier's check, you can't do that on your phone. You got to go to a branch. But if I just want to deposit a check, if I want to move money between accounts, if I want to apply for a loan, I can do all those things on my phone if I want, or I can make an appointment and go see a loan officer in a branch. So it's having those two things work together in concert that I think is really important. And as we look at the way of the future, it's that digital first, branch second. And that's going to take time both for us to evolve, but also to have our customers and members evolve to that as well. And as we've seen over the COVID pandemic, it's been really, really interesting that we've had a huge shift of people who've really embraced the digital. But we've also noticed that there's a core constituency of our membership that really wants to be able to just do their financial transactions with that person they know in that branch, and they feel better about their financial security by doing it in the branch than on their computer, on their phone. So being able to do both is incredibly important for us. And we're going to be in that transition, in that branch to digital for quite some time, right along with our membership.
It's interesting that you use that rock concert example. That analogy is so good. It's such a good analogy. I was thinking about that in the context that, let's say you are that rock musician, and it always bugs me when you go to a concert and they don't play the songs that you want to hear. They play some sort of offset of songs, and you're like, I am going to the Billy Joel concert. I want to hear his greatest hits. I don't just want to hear the new stuff. Let me listen to the stuff that I just really listen to all the time. And it's sort of the same way that when you shift to the digital first engagement and people get really comfortable with that, and then they go to a physical branch to do something, there's this connectivity between those two things. It shouldn't be two separate experiences. There should be this understanding that I did something here, now I'm experiencing the same thing here. They know me at the branch in the same way they knew me before, but they may even know me better, because that connective tissue exists.
Yeah, that's such a good way to take it. Yeah. And all those experiences need to tie together. And whether you're calling us on the phone, you stop in at a branch, you do something at an ATM, you do it online, having that complete, channel, omni-channel approach, and knowing Nathan and in knowing your preferences as well, that, hey, when it comes to this, Nathan would generally prefers to do things digital, but we can tell that something's happening here. And maybe even we'll get to a point where with a little bit of AI, we're going to see that, hey, you started an application for a loan, and you started it 3 times but never completed it. Now, you can do that the old-fashioned way and get a report and call you, but there may be some other things that we can do to identify where that's happening and know that you're maybe not and not you personally, Nathan, because we all know you'd rather do it on your phone. But perhaps maybe that's something that you struggle with, and we can get that clue, and we can get that, and we can have that proactive call out to you. Or the next time you're in the branch, we offer that to show you how to be able to do more things digitally, because we can see those things happening. We know that a lot of people will want to use the branch, but we also know that change is hard for a lot of people. And sometimes it's as simple as having somebody show you how to do it. And how can we better identify those members who really kind of want to be able to do things digitally, but are just uncertain and need a little bit of help to get them through that. So we may even, do some things and do some seminars on how to leverage digital banking. You can put, we already have all those things that you would think about of pushing out a video, a tip sheet of those things. Sometimes it's just, a one-on-one interaction to spend 10 minutes with someone to teach someone and to provide a little coaching goes a long way. And when we think about change in a bigger picture, approaching change for those of us who are change agents as a coach is a really important thing for us to do, and to provide, to me, a coach is different than just somebody who's providing training and communication on what we need to do. A coach listens, a coach assesses where someone is, and a coach provides the right both instruction as well as motivation to help people get to where you both want them to be and they want to be as well. So having that coach in your corner is important too as we're driving change.
Kind of bouncing off that idea of coaching, you've transformed much of the way that the employees inside of Landmark work with each other to be able to serve customers, and that also then relates to how you're serving your external customers directly. What has been the biggest learnings you've had in driving that transformation on the employee side? The especially in helping them to navigate through adopting technology that they weren't necessarily comfortable with before, or something they hadn't used before. Have you had to help the organization through those challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. Because like I said, change is hard, and change is hard for everyone. And I think and there's no silver bullet with some of this. And I'll say some of the things that we've done, I talk about, call it taking it a little bit slow and finding those quick wins and finding those things where it isn't quite as scary to use a new tool, use a new process, whatever those things are, and to drip it a little bit, especially in an organization where Landmark hadn't had significant technology change in quite a while. And now we've had a whole bunch in the last 3 years. Some of what we need to do with that is have it be okay for people to make mistakes and fail. I think people in general felt so much that I don't know how to do this, and if I get it wrong, something bad is going to happen. No, you know what? Something bad is not going to happen. It's okay to fail. It's okay to click the wrong thing once in a while. It's okay. There are certain things you don't want to fail on, but in general, as we do some of these things, hey, it's okay to make some mistakes. That's how we learn. We learn so much more from our mistakes than our successes. So finding those paths to allow people to get in, to test things out, to try, to learn, to fail a little bit has been really important for us. And then the other thing that I've learned, and every organization is different in terms of, call it its capacity to change in terms of, or its not so much capacity, but velocity of change. And when you look at every organization will have a different pace. And as I assessed what Landmark's pace was, from my perspective, way slower than how fast I want to change things, but then I want to go really, really fast. What I really learned quickly was I could get Landmark and its associates to change a little bit faster than they were comfortable with, but not so fast that it made it really painful and not so fast, or not as fast as I wanted to. And my analogy on that one is more of if I want to go out and run an 8-minute mile with the organization, and the organization is used to running 12-minute miles, if I try to get the organization to run with me at an 8-minute mile pace, they're going to do it for a quarter mile or half a mile, and then they're going to give up, and we're going to be in a worse place than we were before. But if I set a pace at 11:30 instead of 12-minute miles, you know what? It's pushing them, but they're going to be able to continue to do it. And then we can slowly ratchet that up as the organization becomes a little bit more comfortable with change. So that's one of the biggest things that we've done at Landmark is pushing to the organization to go a little faster than they're comfortable, but not so fast that it breaks or we quit, or that kind of a thing. If that makes sense to you, Nathan.
Makes tons of sense. Yeah, that's really helpful. There was something that you said there about, adoption and adopting at the pace that they were capable of adopting it at. And I'm kind of interested in how that worked within the technology organization itself. You've pushed a lot of change through that not only needed to impact the employees that are doing work to serve the customers, but also the technology organization that's driving the change itself. How has that change looked? Like, how have you helped them to reskill to, and I know we're involved in some reskilling within Milwaukee Tech together. How has that been an asset to you, and how has that been areas where you've had to navigate through challenges?
Yeah, it's actually been a lot of fun to transform the IT organization and see where we are. And some of it is process, and some of it is mindset, and some of it's hard technology skills. So as I think about an IT organization, in order for any IT organization to be successful, we have to be extremely change resilient because technology changes all the time, and we have to be willing to do things a little bit differently. So, and we also need to have a customer service mindset. So if it's a controlling closed group, that just doesn't work for me. Technology for technology's sake isn't great. We got to have a business purpose. So one of the first things I did was just set out a vision for the organization of who we're going to be, in that we are going to be transformative. We are going to be customer service mindset, and we are going to be the place where the organization can go to get enabling technology for their business needs. So what did that mean for us? That meant a lot of conversations around what our expectations were as an IT organization. It changed how we wrote our goals from a performance evaluation standpoint. It changed how we did some job descriptions, that we need problem solvers in our organizations and people who are doing that proactively. But it also meant then too that we had to provide some additional training on some hard skill areas of technology, be it network, be it things like the Microsoft environment with Office 365, be it a whole new way that we needed to go in and think about doing DevSecOps and leveraging the cloud, and had to retrain people in order to be able to do that. What I found was that organization really responded quite well to that. In many respects, it was almost like a weight was lifted. You mean we get to do all this stuff, and we get to learn, and we get to do all this stuff? And I'm like, yeah, go for it, and have at it. And a lot of that was just pointing people in the right direction, setting an objective, and then say, okay, you go figure it out, because I don't have all the answers, and you know this better than I do, so go figure it out and come back and let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. So those are some of those things that we did there. And as we think about general reskilling, and we think about things like the Milwaukee Tech Hub and where we are with reskilling, and to me, the reskilling that we're doing there hits two different things. And I'm not going to talk a lot today about reskilling of getting some people without IT skills into IT skills, which is one of the things we're doing, but thinking about what are we doing organizationally with our current teams so that we reskill. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but if we're not reskilling and adding on skills on a regular basis, we're getting stale. So that to me is something that our organization is investing in. And whether that's getting people Palo Alto or Cisco training, and finding things that they can do through Pluralsight or Coursera or whatever those things are. And then the key is me making sure that their managers give them time to do it. And then, doing things where, Microsoft has a whole bunch of different training that you can go out and do and learn more about Azure. Is we're implementing things around containerization that we're, again, working with you guys to do some things, whether that's, Kubernetes, and we're looking at Docker. There's tons of things. And if you take that developer who's never done it before, point them in the right direction, say, here's where you can go and get training. Next thing you know, they're coming up with creative solutions to problems, and they're knocking hours and days off of tasks because they feel empowered and enabled. And that's been an incredible change for our organization that, I always think, to oversimplify, you don't want IT to be order takers. You want IT to be problem solvers and, that trusted business advisor, which is a really hard thing and it gets overused. But that's really what we want our entire organization to be, is problem solvers and enablers of solutions for our associates and for our members.
One question that is sort of a tangent to this, but it's something I've been really curious about, is the relationship in financial services, specifically credit unions, banks, between the commodity services that you have, that where everybody sort of has a lot of the same capabilities, and it's more about adopting them. It's there to take advantage of. It's about being at the same functional level or better by adopting those commodity services, and the differentiating capabilities that make you special, in a sense, maybe are also related to each other. Can you talk a little bit about how Landmark is adapting and how you've had to drive, that those commodity services, and how then you're differentiating on top of those commodity services? In a sense, maybe one would be like your Office 365 adoption, or how your customers are engaging with you through the digital space.
Yeah, when it comes to a commodity business, really, at the end of the day, well, we'd like to think that we're special. Financial services really is a commodities business. Everyone has checking accounts and savings accounts and auto loans and mortgages. And you could get into some of wealth management and things like that, where they're not necessarily commodities, but at the end of the day, most of what we do is a commodity. So what does that leave us that we can differentiate on? And we like to think that we differentiate ourselves in a couple of different places. We always like to think that, certainly, when it comes to a commodity, hey, we have great rates and low fees. So what does that mean? That just means we're a price leader, whether you're looking to deposit or whether you're looking to borrow. As we look at what really we can do, it's experience. And that's truly what matters then for that end consumer. So, there are always going to be price shoppers, and we're always going to be competitive in terms of price. That's where we always want to be. Sometimes we will be the best, sometimes we'll be close to the best. Mm-hmm. But, as we look at that, it then becomes how, going back to those channels. So how do we deliver those financial services in a way that differentiates us? And that's by having the right tools in the branch that we know Nathan when he walks in, and we know what Nathan likes to do and what he's done, and being able to be proactive and helpful so that you can meet your everyday financial needs. And then doing that again, cross-channel, whether you're calling, whether you're in the branch, using an ATM, or doing things digitally. And again, it goes back to more and more around that digital. And at the end of the day, all humans are inherently lazy, and they are. We're all lazy. And I don't mean that in a degrading or bad way, but if you have a choice, do you want to do things that are easy, or do you want to do things that are hard? We'll always choose easy. And how do you do, assuming you're going to get the right result either way? Why not have things that are frictionless, easy, friendly? If it takes the same amount of work, wouldn't you rather work with someone who's friendly than someone who's not friendly? Wouldn't you rather go down the path that it's easy as opposed to hard? Wouldn't you rather go down the path where you get it right the first time as opposed to having to fix stuff or jump through hoops? Our differentiator is we want to be friendly. We want to be easy. We want to be frictionless. We want your experience to be positive. And that's really where the differentiation can can be made. And we're leveraging a ton of technology to do that and continue to evolve that. And that type of a journey around easy and frictionless never ends, because we get compared to Amazon. Are we as easy to do business with as Amazon? Is it as easy to do business with as going to, getting a cup of coffee from Starbucks? Is it as easy to do business with as downloading an app onto my iPhone? Okay, regardless of your industry, you're being compared to those companies that are as easy to do business with as anyone else.
Huge point. The bar has been raised on all of our experiences. And just thinking about how easy is it to search on Google for something? Well, usually what I want just kind of pops up. And I'm expecting to have that same kind of ease of experience when I engage the credit union to have a financial services conversation. And the more that you can meet them where they're at there and hit them with the right kind of experience, the better you're going to be the organization of choice. So huge answer. So last question. I would love to hear about who's inspired you. Who are people that have helped you to be the change agent that you are today?
That's a really hard question for me, because there's so many pieces and parts of things that have inspired me. And I'm going to go with my answer to people that I've actually known and worked with, as opposed to, I heard a great Simon Sinek thing, because he's Simon Sinek and he's always inspirational, right? So there are a couple of places that along my path that really made me think about change and how we do things. And one is, I started my career at a company called Anderson Consulting. They're now Accenture. And I remember I was probably about 4 years into the firm at that point, and I was working for a manager who gave me some advice. And, that first, and it actually dovetails a little bit into some of Simon Sinek of start with why is, because he told me, he said, you're really good at what you do, but here's what you need to start thinking about is people who are good at doing will always work, the how will always work for the people who know what to do. So you got to figure out, how do you know what to do? And the people who know what to do will always work for the people who know why we do it. And so if you think about that from that why standpoint, that's where the change really comes from. And he phrased it that way back before TED Talks. And so that was my first little bit into knowing why we do things and what those outcomes are and how we're trying to really change things. Super inspirational to me. And really, I look back on that conversation a lot in my career. I want to then jump probably 7 years ahead to a woman by the name of Heidi Hanstein, who ran one of the product lines at Assurant Health, and she ran the non-mainline products. So things that were ancillary products, supplementary products, short-term medical, things that were a little bit more creative. And I was probably a little stuck in terms of how we had to do some things. And she put her arm around me and said, Steve, I need you to think about this differently. We have to figure out how to meet these customer needs that are changing along with regulation. And we have to do it faster. And I can't do it without you. But right now, I can't do it with you either, because you're a little too constrained. I'm kind of summarizing that conversation. It kind of wasn't that fun, but it was very impressionable. And Heidi inspired me to think about things differently and how we do things differently. And ultimately, we did think about doing things differently. And we had to completely change how we approached project delivery for her in order to be able to have her meet her needs in those customers. So that was great. And did really successful product launches with her up until healthcare reform hurt that company a little bit. And then I just want to say more recently, as we're thinking about where things are in terms of our business and where we need to start driving things. Is a little bit more on the corny side, but in terms of people that are it's the feedback that I'm getting right now from our members, because we get some of that, whether it's somebody who's at a teller line or somebody who's on our digital front, that the feedback that I get, because I do get it, that's coming into me in terms of how our members are using our technology and our services, is a little bit inspirational to me, because it lets me know where I'm hitting the mark and where I'm missing the mark, so that I can make some changes. And that really comes from then my boss, who's our CEO, who essentially lets me and my peers go out and deliver these experiences the way we feel we should be delivering these experiences, both from to our associates as well as to our members. So a little call out to Gary Hannan way back in the day at Accenture, Hanstein from Assurant Health, and then really the membership and my boss, Jay Mikulski at Landmark. So those are three, and there are many more that have been inspirational along the way.
Those are great examples, Steve. And I love how you've brought different elements into this conversation, just talking about the transformation of the employee experience, the way that you change the financial services industry with Landmark, the experiences that you brought from these various influences in your life. And it's really been inspiring for us. So thank you so much for taking the time today.
Yeah, it's been a really fun conversation. Thanks for having me, Nathan.
Absolutely. And thank you for all the people listening in to the Change Agent Podcast. We hope this was as interesting to you as it was for us. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time.